In the last half-century, and certainly in the course of my journalistic lifetime, no political leaders had a more positive and dramatic impact on the future of his country than Nelson Mandela. I say that now with confidence and with the benefit of hindsight. But in those carnival, chaotic days following his release, there was no hint of how Mr. Mandela would achieve that transformation of his country. But when he stepped before our cameras, only a few days after his release, the myth literally yielded to the man. Expectation and, yes, excitement had been mounting after President de Klerk set the date.
Mr. Nelson Mandela will be released at the Victor Verster prison on Sunday, the 11th of February, at about 3 p.m.
Arriving in South Africa to report on this momentous event, you could sense the feeling that change was in the air, and you could hear it too. On the eve of his release, that excitement grew by the hour in Soweto, and as I discovered among that throng, no thunderstorm could dampen the mood in Mr. Mandela's hometown.
He's an outstanding man. He's going to hold people together, and he's the key. He's the key to negotiations. He's the key to a new South Africa, and he's out, man. It's just glorious, wonderful, wonderful.
As that following afternoon of anticipation flowed into early evening, we, the crowd, and the world waited. Suddenly, there he was. The Nelson Mandela who emerged carried the hopes of a nation, but he bore them lightly. He harbored no resentment for his life as prisoner number 46664. 3 days after his release, I talked to him in the small back garden of that Soweto home. His mood was one of reconciliation, not resentment. And amazingly to me anyway, he was ready to compromise, despite everything, in talks with President de Klerk.
I was convinced that we have a new leader who is not only making promises, but who is determined to honor them. I have now met him on 2 different occasions, and I am convinced that he intends to honor what he has declared.
Can the ANC ever settle for anything less than one man, one vote?
We are ready for honorable compromises without surrendering our principles.
Even on a question like one man, one vote, possible compromise?
Compromises must be made in respect to every issue, as long as that compromise is in the interest not only of one population group, but for the country as a whole.
For the country as a whole. During the course of my questioning of Nelson Mandela, never once did he promote the cause of black South Africans above that of whites, nor did he consider himself the chief decision maker. Always he said, the ANC would decide. How much time do you think you have before people cry for results?
I am no prophet, but I am certainly an optimist. And in the course of my discussions with the government, especially with Mr. de Klerk, my optimism has been strengthened, and I approach every problem with optimism.
As I was to discover in later meetings, if ever there was a definition of a statesman and what a statesman is, Nelson Mandela was that man.